Racist hotel rejects black female billionaire. What happens next is shocking. It was evening, and snow was gently falling on the bustling streets of New York. Lisa Anderson stepped out of a sleek black limousine. She wore a dark blue long dress, draped with an expensive fur coat. The sound of her high heels clicked on the marble floor of the Grand Royal Hotel lobby. Lisa looked up. This hotel was one of the most luxurious in the city. Warm yellow light emanated from the crystal chandeliers, and guests dressed elegantly chatted excitedly. A few people glanced at Lisa, some smiled, but there were also strange looks directed her way. She walked straight to the reception desk, placed her handbag down, and smiled. "Hello, I am Lisa Anderson. I have a reservation." The receptionist, a middle-aged man with neatly combed hair, looked up at her. But instead of a welcoming smile, his face briefly showed a hint of confusion. He glanced around, then lowered his head to check the computer. Lisa waited. She wasn't in a hurry, but she could sense that something was off. 1 minute passed, then 2. Still no answer. "Excuse me, but what is your name again?" Lisa frowned. "Lisa Anderson," she repeated, this time with a more serious tone. The man pressed a few keys on the keyboard, and then stopped. He looked up and stared at Lisa, his gaze colder than before. "I am sorry, but we have no rooms available," he said. Lisa blinked. Had she heard him correctly? She had made a reservation in advance and had even paid in full. This hotel couldn't possibly be fully booked. "No rooms ? Lisa repeated, her voice lowering period. "I made my reservation a week ago. Could you please check again?" But the receptionist did not move. He just looked at Lisa strangely, as if she did not belong there. In the lobby, a few other guests began to glance in her direction, curiously wondering what was going on. Lisa tightened her grip on her handbag. She felt a wave of discomfort rise within her. This wasn't the first time she had encountered such a situation. But this time, she was not going to let it slide. "No rooms available." Lisa stared at the receptionist, trying to remain calm. "Could you check again for me?" She emphasized each word. The man sighed, pretending to glance at the computer screen once more. He pressed a few keys, but Lisa noticed it was just a motion for show. After a few seconds, he looked up, his face even colder than before. "I am sorry, but our system does not show any reservations under your name," he said bluntly. Lisa raised an eyebrow. This wasn't the first time she had traveled or stayed in luxury hotels. She had made the reservation a week ago, received a confirmation email, and even paid in full. She pulled out her phone, quickly scrolled through her inbox, and then held the screen up to the man. "This is my booking confirmation email," she said, her voice calm but clear. The receptionist glanced at the screen, but he didn't seem surprised. He simply shrugged, then spoke in a detached tone. "We can't do anything about it. There may have been an error in the system." A surge of anger rose within Lisa. "Then, why didn't you check more carefully?" she asked, her voice starting to harden. The man sighed again, this time with noticeable irritation. "I have already told you, we have no rooms. You can find somewhere else to stay." This time, Lisa couldn't ignore the absurdity of his words. She looked around and saw a white man walking up to the nearby reception desk. "Hello, I need a room for tonight," the man said. "Yes, we still have many rooms available," another receptionist cheerfully responded. Lisa clenched her fist. Clearly, the hotel still had rooms. They just didn't want to let her stay. She took a deep breath, keeping her voice calm but cold. "You are refusing me because of my skin color, are not you?" The entire hotel lobby suddenly fell silent. Some guests started turning around, curious about the tense situation. The receptionist was slightly startled, but he quickly regained his composure. "Ma'am, please do not make a scene," he said softly, but his tone was filled with annoyance. "We have our own policies." "Policies?" Lisa scoffed. She had seen many instances of racism before, but she never expected it to happen right in the middle of New York, in such a luxurious hotel. Lisa stared directly into the man's eyes. "Then I will let everyone know about your policies." She pulled out her phone and started recording a video. The receptionist's face immediately changed. Lisa raised her phone, pressed the record button, and spoke clearly into the camera. "I am Lisa Anderson. I made a reservation at the Grand Royal Hotel, paid in full. But now they are telling me there are no rooms available. While right in front of me, they just accepted a reservation for another guest. The receptionist, John, immediately changed his expression. He glanced around, clearly not wanting the incident to be recorded. He reached out, trying to stop Lisa. "You are not allowed to film here," John said, his voice sharp. Lisa didn't flinch. She held the phone steady, looking straight at him. "Why can't I film? I am just recording how your hotel is treating me." Some guests in the lobby began paying more attention. They looked at Lisa, then at the receptionist. An older woman whispered to her husband. Another hotel employee standing nearby seemed worried, but no one dared to speak up. John bit his lip and then lowered his voice, trying to stay calm. "Ma'am, our hotel has certain standards. I think you will feel more comfortable at another place." Lisa narrowed her eyes. She knew exactly what those words meant. Certain standards. That meant they did not want people like her. Lisa took a deep breath and said clearly, "Are you saying I'm not allowed a room because I am black?" This time, the entire hotel lobby went nearly silent. A few guests stopped talking and turned to look at Lisa and John. A middle-aged man standing nearby frowned. A young woman whispered to her friend, her gaze full of curiosity. John was flustered. "I didn't say that," he responded quickly, but his voice lacked confidence. Lisa kept her phone raised. She pointed the camera at John. "You didn't say it, but your actions are very clear. I made a reservation. I have the payment confirmation. You just took in a new guest right in front of me, but you are telling me to go somewhere else." John opened his mouth to say something but fell silent. He looked around as if waiting for someone to help. At that moment, a white man stepped forward. He was dressed in a sharp suit, exuding authority. He looked at Lisa, then turned to John. "What is going on here?" the man asked, his voice serious. Lisa looked at the newcomer. She didn't know who he was, but he seemed to be someone in charge. She decided not to stay silent. "What is happening is that your staff is refusing to serve me without a valid reason," Lisa said, keeping the phone in her hand. "I want to know, is this the policy of the Grand Royal Hotel?" The man squinted and turned to John. "Is she telling the truth?" John swallowed, clearly tense. I'm just following the rules." "Rules?" ? Lisa immediately interrupted, not giving him a chance to avoid the question. No one answered, but clearly, the situation was far from over. The man in the suit stared hard at John, his expression dissatisfied. He was probably the hotel manager. "I will ask again, what is going on here?" He repeated, his tone cold. John fumbled, sweat starting to bead on his forehead. He glanced at Lisa, then at the surrounding guests. No one said anything, but it was clear that everyone was waiting for an explanation. I'm just following the rules," John said, his voice getting quieter. "What rules?" Lisa asked immediately, not letting him dodge the question. John was silent. His face showed clear signs of confusion, but he still tried to stay composed. The manager crossed his arms, his gaze sharp. "I want an exact answer." John swallowed and lowered his head, but still tried to deflect. "I just thought she might be more comfortable at another hotel." Lisa laughed, but it was not a joyful laugh. She looked directly at John. "Comfortable," she repeated. "I have stayed in hundreds of luxury hotels, but this is the first time someone has said I would be more comfortable somewhere else." John fell silent. Some guests in the lobby began whispering. A middle-aged man furrowed his brow, and a young woman shook her head in disappointment. The manager sighed and turned to Lisa. "Ma'am, I deeply apologize for the inconvenience. I am Richard Carter, the manager of the Grand Royal Hotel. I assure you, this is not how we treat our guests." Lisa didn't easily trust his words. "Then why did your staff act like this?" Richard turned to John, his eyes filled with disappointment. "John, I want the truth. Right now." John stammered, but eventually lowered his head. I just thought she was not suitable for our hotel." The entire hotel lobby fell into a stunned silence. Lisa smirked. "Not suitable? Because I am black." John didn't answer, but his silence spoke volumes. A few guests shook their heads, while others sighed in disbelief. Richard clenched his fist, his face full of anger. "John, I can't believe you did this. Do you know who she is?" John looked up, clearly surprised. "Who is she?" Lisa crossed her arms and stared at him. "I am Lisa Anderson, billionaire, real estate investor, and someone considering purchasing this hotel chain." John turned pale. Some guests around them gasped. Richard immediately turned to Lisa, his tone completely changed. "Miss Anderson, I sincerely apologize for this incident. I assure you, we will take immediate action." Lisa didn't respond, her eyes fixed on John. He lowered his head, knowing he had made a serious mistake. But for Lisa, this wasn't over. She wasn't one to let things slide. Richard Carter, the hotel manager, looked at Lisa with a sense of respect, but she was not easily swayed. Lisa turned away, not wanting to hear any more apologies from him. She had heard enough lies. "Do you think an apology is enough to erase the truth?" Lisa said, her voice cold. She stood tall, her sharp eyes looking at Richard. "Do you know how much discrimination I have faced throughout my career?" Richard was silent, not daring to respond. After a moment, he spoke. "Miss Anderson, I understand your anger. I truly regret what happened. I assure you that immediate measures will be taken to ensure this does not happen again." Lisa looked at him with skepticism. "So what are you going to do?" she asked. Richard stood still, his face hesitant. "I will deal with John and clarify everything. He will be suspended immediately." Lisa pursed her lips, still not satisfied. "You think that is enough?" "One person suspended, and everything will be over." Lisa's words made Richard uneasy. She didn't want just that. She wanted real change. "No," Lisa continued, "this isn't just an incident. It is a deeper issue, and I cannot let it pass without real change. If you want to address this, I want you to review your hotel's policies. You need to make it clear that all guests are welcome, regardless of race, color, or background." Richard was silent, looking at Lisa with a gaze full of respect. But Lisa didn't look back at him. She turned toward the lobby, looking at the guests around. Everyone was still standing there, no one daring to speak, but all eyes were on her. "And I won't stop here," Lisa continued. "I will take this to the press. Your hotel cannot allow racist behavior to exist in this environment. If you want to protect the reputation of the Grand Royal Hotel, you will need to do more than this." Lisa's words made the tension in the hotel lobby even thicker. Richard Carter looked at her, no longer as confident as before. He realized this was not just a small incident, it could ruin the reputation of this prestigious hotel. "Of course," Richard said, his voice dropping. "I will do everything to protect the hotel's reputation, and I will not disappoint you again." Lisa nodded, but inside, she still did not feel at ease. The next day, Lisa woke up and opened her phone. She saw a flood of messages from her assistant, friends, and business partners. Everyone knew about what had happened at the Grand Royal Hotel. The news spread like wildfire, and not everyone was on her side. Many people questioned her motives, suggesting that this was just a way for Lisa to seek attention. Lisa didn't care about the negative comments. She knew she was doing the right thing. What she had experienced in life had taught her that fighting for what is right was important. But what concerned her more than anything was how people were perceiving the situation. A call from Richard Carter came through. He said there had been some changes. "Hello, Miss Anderson." Richard's voice was a bit tired, but he still tried to maintain politeness. "I have met with the hotel's senior management. We have decided not only to suspend John, but also to implement a training program for all staff to stop any form of racial discrimination." Lisa listened without saying anything, showing no sign of joy. She had expected more from them. A training program. She didn't think that would be enough. "You think a training program will change your system?" Lisa asked, her voice full of skepticism. "Period. If that is all, then it is just surface level. You need to change the entire policy and working procedures of your hotel." Richard hesitated. "We will review the internal policies, but this will take time." Lisa felt her patience starting to run thin. She didn't have time to wait for empty promises. "No, I do not have time to wait," she said coldly. "You have made a serious mistake, and I cannot let this happen again." Richard went quiet, then gently said, "I understand. But we are doing everything we can." Lisa hung up without saying anything more. She looked out the window, her mind deep in thought. She had made up her mind. This wasn't just her issue, it was the issue of everyone who faced discrimination in society. If the Grand Royal Hotel couldn't change, she would make them be held accountable. She stood up and grabbed her phone. She opened her email and wrote a letter to major press agencies. She didn't want to just make an accusation. She wanted a real strategy for change, not only in this hotel but in others as well. Lisa's letter clearly stated her purpose, calling for a thorough investigation into racial discrimination in the hotel industry and demanding strong measures to ensure that no one was mistreated because of their skin color. Lisa sent the email and sat down, her hands clenched into fists. She knew this was just the beginning. She had sparked a movement, and now she would fight for a bigger change. As soon as Lisa hit send, she felt a shift in the air. In the following days, the media began reporting on her case. Major newspapers, television channels, and even social media platforms were spreading the story. People started paying attention to the Grand Royal Hotel, and the issue of racial discrimination in the hotel industry was being widely discussed. Along with the criticism from the public, there were those who supported Lisa. They called for justice and demanded that hotels make changes. Organizations advocating for the rights of Black people also spoke out, demanding significant and real changes in the hotel industry. However, the hotel was in a difficult situation. Richard Carter, the manager of the Grand Royal Hotel, received many calls and feedback from shareholders, partners, and customers. They were demanding a quick solution to restore the hotel's reputation. One morning, Lisa received a call from a well-known journalist. She said that she had read Lisa's letter and wanted to interview her about what had happened. "Miss Anderson, I want to ask you about your next steps. After what happened at the Grand Royal Hotel, do you believe the hotel industry will truly change? Do you have a plan to continue this fight?" the journalist asked. Lisa didn't hesitate. She saw an opportunity to amplify her voice and make this fight even stronger. This isn't just a personal battle of mine. It is the battle of everyone who has been discriminated against, treated badly because of the color of their skin. If the Grand Royal Hotel can't change, I won't stop here. I will continue to fight, and I will make other hotels take a hard look at their actions. After the interview ended, Lisa felt a newfound confidence. She was not only a Black billionaire, but also someone with the power to change the game. She knew her fight wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to face any challenge. Immediately after the interview, human rights organizations contacted Lisa. They expressed their support and proposed collaborating with her to push for change in the hotel industry. They wanted to hold discussions, seminars, and campaigns to shed light on the issue of racial discrimination and find long-term solutions. However, Lisa knew that things weren't as simple as that. She realized that changing an industry as large as the hotel business could not just be achieved through discussions or meetings. She needed to take stronger steps with clearer strategies. One evening, sitting at her desk, Lisa decided to create her own organization to fight racial discrimination in the hotel industry. She would bring together experts, lawyers, and influencers to build a powerful network that could spark a large movement. She wouldn't just make one hotel change, but she would make the entire industry change. Meanwhile, the Grand Royal Hotel continued to face pressure from the public. Richard Carter realized that this issue was not just affecting his hotel, but was a problem for the entire industry. He knew that without real action, the Grand Royal would not be able to withstand this storm. Lisa looked out the window, a burning determination in her heart. She had started a much bigger fight than she had imagined. But she knew that if she did not stand up, no one else would do it for her. Day by day, public attention grew. TV channels, articles, and social media videos were discussing Lisa's case and the Grand Royal Hotel. Meanwhile, Lisa continued to solidify her position in this fight. She decided to expand her campaign, not just stopping at one hotel, but aiming for the global hotel industry. She organized a major press conference, inviting journalists, experts, and influencers. Her goal was clear: not only to uncover the truth about racial discrimination in the hotel industry, but also to demand concrete and long-lasting changes. The day before the press conference, Lisa received an unwelcome call. On the other end was Richard Carter. "Hello, Miss Anderson. I am Richard Carter, the manager of the Grand Royal Hotel. I would like to talk to you about what happened." His voice sounded somewhat anxious. Lisa knew this call wouldn't be easy. "I don't have much time," she replied. "If you have something to say it quickly." Richard was silent for a moment, then said, "I would like to propose a face-to-face meeting. We are ready to engage in dialogue and make changes. Could you give us a chance to resolve this issue?" Lisa paused and thought for a moment. She understood that this meeting could be an opportunity to speed up the process of change, but she also knew that it could turn into a trap. "You want to meet with me to apologize again?" Lisa asked coldly. Richard didn't answer immediately, but then he admitted, "It is not just an apology. We want to change, but if you want real change, I think we need a serious dialogue." Lisa thought for a moment longer, then hung up. She wasn't sure about Richard's proposal, but she decided that this was an opportunity she couldn't pass up. This meeting would decide a lot, not just for her, but for the entire hotel industry. The next day, Lisa arrived at the Grand Royal Hotel. She wore a black suit, an outfit that signified power and seriousness. Richard was already waiting in the meeting room, his face tense, but also somewhat anxious. "Good afternoon, Miss Anderson." Richard stood up, his expression serious. "I understand that this will not be easy, but we want to present a clear plan to make things right." Lisa didn't sit right away. Instead, she stood and looked around the room. She could feel the tension in the air. This was not a meeting to ease the situation, but a confrontation to see who would come out on top. "Could you elaborate on your plan?" Lisa asked in a firm tone. Richard picked up a document from the table and began to explain. "We have decided to implement a mandatory training program for all employees on racial discrimination. We will invite experts in the field to teach and ensure that no customer is discriminated against again." Lisa listened quietly, but she was not convinced. "So you think a training program is enough to change this entire hotel?" Richard paused, sensing the distrust in Lisa's eyes. "We don't just want to stop there. We will change our customer acceptance policy and open a channel for customers to report any inappropriate behavior." Lisa shook her head. "These are just temporary solutions. You think you can easily erase such a big issue with these things?" Richard was surprised. He hadn't expected Lisa to be so resolute. "So what do you want?" "We are ready to change, but you need to give us the opportunity to do so." Lisa looked directly into his eyes and spoke firmly. "I want a real commitment. Not just policy changes, but concrete actions. I won't accept empty promises. I want to see real change immediately." The tense dialogue continued for a while, until Richard had nothing left to say. Lisa stood up without glancing at him again. She knew that today she had set demands that he could not refuse. Lisa's fight was not just a personal struggle. It was a fight for justice, and she knew she could not stop until she achieved real change. After the tense meeting at the Grand Royal Hotel, Lisa felt like she had taken a big step forward in her fight. However, she also knew that it was just the beginning. The changes Richard Carter proposed were still not enough to convince her. She didn't want just empty promises or temporary training programs. She wanted real action. Lisa decided not to stop. She wrote a public statement demanding that the Grand Royal Hotel implement specific and clear measures to combat racism, not just in one hotel, but across the entire industry. The statement was quickly picked up by the media and attracted attention, especially from organizations advocating for minority rights. At the same time, she received a call from a famous civil rights lawyer, someone she had long admired. He wanted to help Lisa with her legal fight. "We can help you sue the hotel for racial discrimination and demand compensation for damages," the lawyer said, with a calm yet powerful voice. Lisa immediately thought about everything she had gone through. She felt that what had happened was a huge shock, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever faced discrimination. "I do not just want compensation. I want to set an example for the entire hotel industry. If we win the case, I will use this victory to create a global movement to change the hotel industry. The lawyer agreed and promised to support her. With his help, Lisa began gathering evidence and building a strong case to sue the Grand Royal Hotel. She felt more confident than ever with a professional team standing behind her. But things were not as simple as she thought. A week later, Lisa received a surprising phone call. On the other end of the line was Richard Carter's voice. "Miss Anderson, we have reconsidered the situation, and we would like to negotiate. We do not want this to go any further. We are prepared to offer a settlement." Richard's voice sounded worried and remorseful. Lisa was surprised, but not entirely. She knew that once an issue escalated, no one wanted to face a long legal battle, especially when they could lose customers and their reputation. "What is your settlement offer?" Lisa asked, her tone stern. "We are willing to compensate you with a large sum of money and commit to making changes in our customer service procedures. However, we would prefer to keep this matter private without further publicity," Richard proposed. Lisa wasn't easily swayed. She remained silent for a moment, then responded, "I do not want money. I want to see real change. If you cannot guarantee that, do not expect any settlement." After that call, Lisa decided to follow the path she had chosen. She couldn't accept half-hearted solutions. She couldn't allow racism to continue just because of empty promises from powerful people. The next day, she informed reporters that she would be suing Grand Royal in court. Her statements quickly spread across the media, and once again, a wave of public reaction surged strongly. Meanwhile, the Grand Royal Hotel found itself facing a media storm they could not control. Shareholders began to worry, and many demanded the resignation of the hotel's top executives. Richard Carter realized that everything had spiraled beyond his control. He needed to act, but what could he do to stop what had already begun? Lisa knew that her decision would lead to a long and difficult battle, but she could not turn back. She felt strength in every step she took. She would not only make Grand Royal pay, but she would force the entire hotel industry to change. This wasn't just her fight. It was the fight of all those who were oppressed and discriminated against. The legal battle began to intensify and became costly. Lisa, along with her legal team, poured all their efforts into preparing every small detail. Long days of relentless work, sleepless nights gathering evidence. Every move she made was followed closely and met with strong reactions from the public. But no one knew that behind the lights of press conferences and interviews, Lisa was fighting with herself. She was exhausted, stressed, but the only thing that kept her standing was her ultimate goal of creating significant change. Meanwhile, the Grand Royal Hotel was on the brink. Shareholders were losing patience. They couldn't let things drag on any longer, as public opposition was growing stronger by the day. Richard Carter, despite his efforts to reassure the parties involved, could not soothe the dissatisfaction of the customers. The Grand Royal brand was gradually losing its value. The situation grew even more tense when a court decided to hold a public hearing on the case. Both sides were preparing for a relentless showdown. Lisa knew that this would be the final battle, and its outcome would not only determine her fate, but also the future of the hotel industry. She could not turn a blind eye to the racial discrimination that had existed for far too long. Just before the trial began, Lisa received an unexpected message from Richard Carter. In the phone call, his voice sounded exhausted and weak. "Miss Anderson," Richard said, "we have thought this over very carefully. I know we were wrong. I apologize to you and to all those who were affected. But I can't let this fight go on any longer. I would like to propose a settlement." Lisa stayed silent for a moment, not saying anything. She wasn't sure whether to feel relieved or disappointed. This battle had gone on for so long, and she was no longer interested in hearing apologies. She wanted action, not just promises. Richard continued, "We will acknowledge all our mistakes and make the changes you requested. We will not just change our policies, we will cooperate with human rights organizations to create a truly non-discriminatory hotel environment. We will publicly apologize and compensate all those affected." Lisa knew that this was an opportunity to end the fight, but she did not rush to respond. I need a permanent commitment, not just words. If you really want to change, prove it with action. A few days later, at the public trial, everyone witnessed Lisa's strong and unwavering presence. She didn't just come to seek justice for herself, but for all those who had been discriminated against. She demanded that the Grand Royal Hotel change not just internally, but also in how they approached their customers and the community. Then, in front of the entire public, Richard Carter stood up and publicly admitted fault. He not only apologized to Lisa, but also to all the customers, employees, and communities who had endured discrimination over the years. The hotel's leadership committed to implementing widespread changes and creating a transparent evaluation system to prevent future discrimination. Under pressure from the public and human rights organizations, the Grand Royal Hotel had no choice but to fulfill its commitment. They publicly compensated the customers who had been discriminated against and began rolling out staff training programs on a global scale. Lisa wasn't just the one who won the case. She became a symbol of change. She had achieved what no one believed could happen. The hotel industry, once seen as a domain of outdated rules, was now forced to face reality and change. After everything she had been through, Lisa felt a sense of relief. But she also realized that the fight didn't end here. Although the Grand Royal had admitted their wrongdoing, there were still many other places that needed to change. She decided to continue fighting, not just for herself, but for those who needed justice, because she knew that great change was never easy. But with each victory, she was paving the way for all those who had been oppressed and discriminated against. Thank you all for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the best stories. See you in the next one.